Yeah, I'll react to that, sure. Another one. Okay, Freddie, still with us. Yeah, let's do it. Let me turn on the light right here, though. Sorry. Let's do it. My name's Connor. Hello, if you're new. Join the Discord, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and give me all your money. No, I don't have a Patreon. Okay, so how harsh was the Treaty of Versailles really? This is one of those things like my opinion that Hitler going into going into Russia to seize the oil was a bad idea. He should have gone through Northern Africa, avoid making USSR an enemy until they have to. I saw another video, I think recommended on the Discord, about him just going through Turkey. But it turns out there's a lot of stuff I didn't know. And it turns out the Germans didn't really have much of a choice but to invade the Soviet Union. And this is another one of those topics where I am just kind of as confident as I was with the oil thing going into making Russia an enemy. And so I could be proven completely wrong, which I'm fine with. I'm happy with if I'm wrong, if I learn something. And what I'm saying is that I feel like the Treaty of Versailles fed into the narration of German nationalism, leading to the rise of a dictator, leading to the rise of Hitler, who was made chancellor, but eventually just became a dictator. But I could be wrong. I'm going to watch another one about the French occupation of the German lands, I think, in between World War II, World War I. I have stalled long enough. Let's do it.
The Treaty of Versailles.
Original video, the top description below, Discord right below that. Look for you to join. Fun time. We're all nice. Most of us are. Love to grow the family. Pull up a chair, the more the merrier.
Of the most famous treaties in the Treaty of Versailles is one of the most famous treaties in human history and is one with a mixed reputation. Signed in the
Treaty of Peace between the winners and Belgium and Germany. Why is Belgium in parentheses? Sorry, I felt a burp coming. Excuse me. How rude. And I have the hiccups. And Germany, about how this was all totally Germany's fault and they should pay up and never start a world war again. Shame on you. This works completely well. Brings Europe peace. It puts all the blame on the country that should have been putting the blame on, and Europe is peaceful forever. That's my understanding.
In the wake of the Entente's victory over the German Empire, it did several things. It limited the size of the German army, demilitarized the Rhineland, demanded huge amounts of reparations, and, perhaps most importantly, forced Germany to relinquish these lands. And many people decry the Treaty of Versailles.
Why not just
force Germany to relinquish these?
Why not? Why did they keep this part? Is this where Kaliningrad is today, or is that more up here, like that little Russian-owned place in the Baltic? Okay.
Lands. And many people decry the Treaty of Versailles as being unreasonably harsh on Germany. Now, you should know this video isn't going to talk about whether or not Versailles caused World War II. It is, however, going to ask one question. Just how harsh was the Treaty of Versailles really? Well, the best way to figure this out is to look at contemporary treaties and those from just before World War I to see what the norm was. Now, obviously...
This is a rational man. Rational man. Asking the right questions.
is to look at contemporary treaties and those from just before World War I to see what the norm was.
Let's compare it to other
obviously,
treaties.
World War I was a much bloodier, more brutal conflict than Europe had seen before up until this point, and so that should be taken into account. So, in the context of the rest of the World War I peace treaties, Versailles wasn't actually very harsh. Austria-Hungary, via the Treaty of Saint-Germain-en-Laye and the Treaty of Trianon, was completely dismantled. The Austrian half of the empire lost these territories to its neighbours, many of whom were brand new nations. It was the Hungarian half that had it the worst, though. Much like Versailles, Trianon limited the size of the Hungarian...
Sorry, that Hungary with these borders always makes me think of a manatee. You see with like its back flipper and its little flip in its little head right there where its mouth. I'm sorry. I'm
Half
a
of the empire lost
3-year-old
these
child.
territories to its neighbours, many of whom were brand new nations. It was the Hungarian half that had it the worst, though. Much like Versailles, Trianon limited the size of the Hungarian military, demanded war reparations, and also took territory. Germany lost 8% of its total land and 10% of its total pre-war population to the treaty, whereas Hungary was stripped of 70% of its lands and 65% of its pre-war population, so I think we can safely say that Trianon was certainly harsher. Of course, comparing Versailles to the other World War I treaties isn't
One problem I see with that, I mean, it's starting to prove me wrong, which I like. It's not. I really don't. I think this was important in really learning about anything, especially in politics. But politics is just a joke. I'm already getting just upset even mentioning it. What was I even saying before? What?
that Trianon was certainly harsher. Of course.
Oh right. So I like the comparison, and it is proving me wrong. I don't mind being proven wrong or proven right. Doesn't matter. I just want to know what the seemingly correct, most likely answer is. But one problem is I'm not sure if maybe Austria was destroyed so completely that they just weren't able to rise up again because of the harsh treatment, and so ended up just kind of joining with the Did parts, obviously the Austria-Hungary isn't a thing in World War II, or the Austro-Hungarian Empire, Austria-Hungary, I forget what the difference is, but the countries comprising them, the countries that existed in World War II that had been in the previous Austro-Hungarian Empire borders, were on the German side, the Axis? I'm sorry.
Percent of its pre-war population, so I think we can safely say that Trianon was certainly harsher. Of course, comparing Versailles to the other World War I treaties isn't too useful since it was the same war and the same victorious countries negotiating them. So what about Germany's previous peace treaties? How harsh were they in comparison to Versailles? And the first that we'll look at is the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. This was signed between the victorious Central Powers led by Germany and the newly formed Russian Soviet Federative Social Republic. What this did was formalise the defeat of the Russian Empire and demonstrate what Germany expected a defeated nation to give. Central Powers led by Germany and the newly...
Or does this dude just creep me out? Isn't this Trotsky? He just creeps me out. Maybe it's my built-in American anti-communism, but I don't like him. I don't know enough about him. I can't judge him.
Formed Russian Soviet Federative Social Republic. What this did was formalise the defeat of the Russian Empire and demonstrate what Germany expected a defeated nation to give up, which was a lot. The Russian Empire was stripped of about 30% of its population, depending on whether or not you count places like Finland, whom the communist authorities had relinquished claims on anyway. In terms of land, the amount stripped away wasn't much in comparison to the massive Russian Empire. It was, however, the densely populated, heavily industrialised regions that Russia was to lose. It was also...
That's like saying, like, if the U.S. annexed, like, 10% of Canadian... There was a crazy... there was a video, I think it was Real Life Lore or something like that. I saw it as a, maybe it'll be here. I wouldn't be surprised. Right here. It is. Real Life Lore. I don't know if you can see this. I will actually bring it up here for a second. I haven't seen this video just because I've been wanting to react to it, but from the thumbnail, you can see how 50% of the Canadian population... Now I'm going down again. I'm such an idiot. Okay, well, the point is that, like, 50% of the Canadian population lives, like, just... How do I say this? I'm not saying, like, the 30 miles from the border. I mean, like, 50% of the Canadian population actually live, like, south of Maine, like, the upper tips of Maine. And so that's like saying... Like, we could take, like, 10% of Canadian land and end up getting, like, 90%, like, 50% of the population or something. And so it's not always that simple. Oh, I am watching this one. Don't worry.
After the
Emperor
First
of
World
Rome.
War was over...
That's my next video. Sorry. Way too long of a pause.
awarded to pay about 6 billion marks in compensation to Germany. In comparison, the Treaty of Versailles ordered Germany to pay 130 billion marks, although the Allies only really expected to receive a third of that. And in terms of industrial losses, Germany lost barely any capacity. Of course, this does ignore the fact that the Rhineland, the industrial heartlands of Germany, were to be occupied for 15 years. Although 15 years is obviously better than forever. So in comparison to Brest-Litovsk, Versailles seems much more lenient. So what about before the First World War? Well, the most obvious treaty to look at is the Treaty of Frankfurt, which brought to an end the 1870 Franco-Prussian War. Famously, this saw the annexation of Alsace-Lorraine by Germany, with France losing roughly 4% of its population and 2.5% of its lands. Furthermore, the French had to pay 5 billion francs in reparations, about 3 years' worth of government income. The figure that Versailles demanded was about 20 years of government income. So to conclude, just how harsh was Versailles comparatively? Well, frankly, not very. In fact, it was fairly run-of-the-mill in terms of its demands. Nations that lost wars were expected to lose land and to pay reparations, although in Germany the loss of lands largely included the loss of Germans too. What made Versailles so difficult for the German people to swallow was that it deprived them of their pride. However, on the upside for them, the original French plans of carving Germany up like Austria-Hungary never happened, so it wasn't as harsh as it could have been. I hope you enjoyed this episode and thank you for watching.
Thank you for making. The comparison, I loved how we went into comparisons. That's just what a logical person does. I didn't even think of it, so apparently I'm not logical. But just comparing it to other treaties and how they reacted, but you can never really compare it to, not that you can't compare it, but there were facts about Germany being just much more powerful than Austria-Hungary, and much more of the big dog in the war on the side of on the German side in World War I, and so they're going to be a bit more angry and a bit more hostile to losing any sort of prestige, and so that I'm not saying that my theory about it starting World War II. I don't think it started. I think it played a part in setting up the environment to the rise of Hitler. But I still think that no comparisons are really perfect, and I'm still holding my ground on that point. But it can still change. All right. Hope you guys subscribe, all that stuff. Hope you're doing well. See you guys next time.